Hello, welcome back to my studio. Today I'm going to give you some painting tips for gouache painters. More specifically, how to get the most out of the paint that's left in your tube when you discover it's all gone dry. Now there's nothing more annoying than getting out your tube of gouache paint and you see that it's gone solid, and you may just be tempted to throw it away and think it's ruined. Even if your tube looks empty, there's paint in it. And I'm going to show you how I go about getting that paint out and using it again as good as new. It's pretty nifty. Okay, enough of that. You need your atomizer, some strong scissors, some palette knives, tissue paper, and of course your dried up paint. Here I've got a tube of ultramarine blue that's dry at the neck, completely dry, and I suspect pretty dry inside as well. I can't get it out the tube, so I just cut the end off and down the side with the strong scissors. Don't use your kitchen scissors, get something you don't mind messing up. And then carefully pry it apart. If you're worried about cutting yourself, that is a precaution you could take by wearing gloves, but I'm just being careful. And I don't mind about getting paint on my fingers. It washes off very easily. Now you can see all the dry paint in there. Start scraping it out with a painting knife or palette knife, something you're not too precious about. You don't want to mess up your favorite painting knife. Look how much paint is in the neck of the tube. Very often that just gets thrown away and you think the tube is empty. But there's enough in there to do a couple of small paintings. So we don't want to waste that. You can get it all out. And I'm mixing it in a ice cube tray, which I use as a working container. Get as much out as possible. I'm just showing you how much I can still get off scraping all these little bits off the inside of the tube. It seems like a messy business, and it is kind of, but I don't believe there's any harm to it. And it's a 10 minutes work, but I think worth it. And just the last bit out there, this is where actually most of the paint is, in this neck of the tube, and it's very hard to squeeze that out in the normal course, even if the paint is soft. And then once you've got enough out and you're satisfied with that, just get the atomizer and a couple of sprays, not too much. Just start manipulating the thick paint. Sometimes the paint's dry to the point where you almost can grind it into a fine dust. But just manipulate it and sort of cut through the hard paint, let the moisture get in there and keep working it until it's got to a nice creamy consistency. So this is my stay wet palette. I'm just cleaning up where the ultramarine normally goes before adding the new paint. And there it will stay in my palette and ready to use anytime I need it. And look at all of that extra paint. And that is several sketchbook paintings that I could do with all of that ultramarine paint, which most people would just throw out. So that's a real saving and worth the trouble. And just mix it all up. I don't want it too wet, so be very careful with how much water you add. Rather mix it and then add more. Here's a dried up cadmium yellow lemon, and this was not quite as dry inside, still fairly pasty, but dried up around the neck of the tube. And I just want to show you how much paint comes out the neck of that tube. It's quite amazing. So that alone is worth the trouble. Get that all out, mix it all up into a nice creamy consistency, and store it in your palette ready for your next painting. So I check all my tubes and see if there's any I've lost track of that have got hard, or there's just some left in the neck of the tube, and I salvage that. And while you're doing this, clean up your entire palette as well. Mine tends to get a bit messy after a few paintings, and so take the opportunity to just go in there, get everything back to a nice creamy consistency, and then store it away. Now the Stay Wet palette needs a few sprays of water with the atomizer every couple of days if you want to keep it wet. So I just give it a couple of sprays all over, not too much, and then put the sealable lid on. It's got a rubber seal inside it, and just snap that in and it's done. Well, I hope that gave you some useful tips on what you can do when you find your tube of gouache paint has gone dry on you. Don't throw it away. Salvage all of that paint and use it in your next gouache painting. After all, these paints are pretty expensive, and there's a surprising amount of paint left in it, even around the neck of the tube when it looks empty. So get some more mileage out of your paint next time as well. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like if you can, and share it. That would be great. Don't forget to subscribe, and also look at the end roll for more videos. And there's a free painting course that you can join right now. Look for the link below this video. Well, that's it for now. Until next time, happy painting.